Pull on up a chair. You're at Camp Video Games, y'all.
Well, hey there, and welcome to Camp Video Games. This is a podcast that covers video games and their multimedia adaptations. We're talking The Last of Us. This is the third part in a discussion on the video game before we talk about the HBO miniseries. It's not a miniseries, it's a television series.
Yes,
it's
sir.
a mega series. I'm Junior Counselor Sean. Who's that fella?
I'm Junior Camp Counselor Josh. This is the part of the show I usually give you camping or hiking advice, and just I've been talking about The Last of Us for 3 weeks, and I just kind of want to die.
All the kids want to die too. To save the world.
We shouldn't have let them see this. This is a bad idea.
I know, we should probably do like games for like kids when we make the kids hear us talk about this.
No, if you go back, we've got a backlog of fun games for children, younger folks, and less violent things. But no, I don't know. We picked a weird time, and I said this on the other episodes, to talk about The Last of Us, but I'm glad we did. There's something about it that feels right in this moment of time and life and space.
Joel does what we're all thinking. He's just smashing people's heads with his boot. That's all I want to do right now.
Yeah. And as my argument has been and will continue to be, he's doing what I feel like everyone around me is thinking, but I'm like, no, we don't have to be like this.
That just means you'll be the first to die.
No, absolutely. And that's another thing I've said and will continue to say is I have no desire to live in this world.
The world of The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Our world's fine.
No, it is. Whatever. So yeah, we've been working through the game. If for some reason this is your first episode of the series you're listening to, go back to the beginning because we're going through the plot, sort of beat by beat ish, and catch up. It's fun.
Beat by beat, shiv by shiv, bullet by bullet,
mutilated face by mutilated face.
So last time we checked in on old Joel and Ellie. Should we call them like Jolie? Jelly?
I'm surprised nobody's ship named them.
Well, that's fucked up first. But yeah, second. Yeah, we'll call them Jelly.
Yeah.
So Jelly, I hate it already. So Joel and Ellie, Joel just gave Ellie a gun after she proved that she could back him up as a sniper. And they're in looks like they're in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania right now. Whoa.
Yeah. Oh, go what's our team name? The Bengals. Go Bengals, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So after they've gone through all those adventures in Pittsburgh, we find them running from that artillery,
the Humvee
that the hunters have procured from somewhere that seems to have endless ammunition.
It's a 50 caliber machine gun, and apparently a desk can stop those bullets because you can just hide behind a desk as the machine guns just poof, and they have unlimited ammunition, just blah 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 blah. Where's whatever?
But the thing I just want to say, the reason I'm sort of still on this like running from the Humvee thing is the abruptness to which you find yourself suddenly in the next quote unquote chapter.
Sure.
It's one of the things I'm like, it's pretty impressive. I'll give this game some kudos to that. Is that like, I hate it in the moment when it's happening because I've just been running from this goddamn Humvee.
Yeah.
And then you crawl through a window and immediately a man strangles you and tries to kill you.
Yeah.
And that's basically saying like you finished the Pittsburgh chapter, on to the next one. For the most part, I think you have to crawl. You have to escape the Humvee stuff with your new friends that we're about to meet.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we just met Big Henry and Little Sam. Henry and Sam are brothers that I believe they came from Hartford. But they're survivors from like a different quarantine zone or a different faction, and they're obviously their journey is a nice kind of mirror image to Joel and Ellie's, where there's an adult and there's a 14-ish year old that is depending on the adult to safely get them through, but just so turns out the adult is also counting on that youngish person to see them through.
Yes. Apparently, you can't survive in this world unless you have a big buddy, little buddy makeup of your group dynamic.
Yeah,
that seems to be how it works.
Well, we're both like significantly taller than our partners, right?
Yes.
So, big buddy, little buddy.
It's the only way you can get through this world.
And you photograph better that way.
It makes me look taller as a man when I photograph. That's the only reason. So I don't know. What's interesting about this meeting here? I don't know. I found the fact that you come in and like have to like talk down this gun situation, and it's like I think the one time you see it work in the game that somebody's pointing a gun at somebody and you're able to talk them down instead of ultraviolence breaking out.
Yeah, now I'm thinking about that. I can't think of other instances where people are talked out of violence in this game.
Yeah, because which one? It's the younger one. I forget who's
Sam.
who. Sam.
So Joel and Ellie, they're escaping this Humvee, right? And Joel crawls in through a window and he gets like ambushed by Henry, and a fist fight ensues. And Ellie is the one that sees a little teenage boy holding a gun at Joel, and she has to like basically break up the fight just so that Joel doesn't get himself shot.
Yeah.
And through their discussion, you like the way that Henry breaks it down, he's like, I knew you weren't one of the bad guys because you have a kid with you, because the hunters don't keep kids around.
Yeah.
Kids, kind of a bummer. If you don't want them around. And they're kind of a bummer even if you want them.
I think he specifically, to like, in case we needed some of like the ideas that are trying to be conveyed by the game, like beaten over our head harder. Like he points out like the hunters don't keep kids around because survival of the fittest and all that or something like that.
Yeah, for
He
sure.
specifically says because survival of the fittest. It's like, okay, I get it. There's this mean world of where like most surviving factions do so through a very, I don't know, like physical strength, violent mentality.
Yeah. And this is realistic. Like this is like concurrent with like human nature in times of crisis. Sure, there are plenty of like feel good stories about people banding together and doing the right thing, but there's also so many instances. Like, do you remember when Popeyes released the chicken sandwich?
No. That's a fake.
When the Popeyes crispy fried chicken sandwich premiered, there was violence in the streets to get this like commodity. There was like a new genre of like videos of people fighting over fried chicken sandwiches at Popeyes.
Yeah.
And that is just like, and this was happening, I want to say 2019, early 2020, right before human nature really started to make itself apparent in mass situations that we've had to deal with. But that was something that really like resonated with me. It was just like, okay, we're not even in a famine right now, and like just because there's this like seemingly there's the illusion of scarcity.
Well, this is interesting because it's an illusion created by marketing. And if marketing goes away,
do people kill each other over sandwiches?
Yeah, if people aren't being told about false scarcities that they are experiencing, how will they face true scarcity is an interesting question.
Sure.
Because when you were talking about this, I started thinking about the re-release of the Szechuan sauce.
Yes,
at McDonald's.
We're on a kick right now. We're doing great.
Yeah, after Rick and Morty had that stupid episode about it, and there wasn't violence, but there was a lot of stupid performative freakouts.
Yes.
Where people would go and just harass McDonald's workers because they didn't have the Szechuan sauce.
Yeah.
Like I envision most people are actually more like that, and like when true scarcity hits the fan. I like either they're gonna just let themselves starve out, or they're gonna collectively organize. Is my hope and my hunch, and I don't know.
Starvation is the propelling motivator for collective violence. Let them eat bread. Like when we go through the quarantine zones in The Last of Us, if you're in a quarantine zone that has failed, it is usually a result of scarce rations, cuts to those rations, or just a fed up populace that has decided to bite the boot that holds them down.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, but you know what I mean.
No, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like, I don't know. This is a fun debate to keep going throughout a discussion of The Last of Us in early 2025.
I remember the toilet paper shortages of 2020.
Yeah. Which again, that was a sort of a false, that was induced by media panic. It wasn't real, right? You could go to an individual store where they ran out of toilet paper because they told people to stock up
because there's
on
panic
toilet
buying.
paper.
Yeah.
But there wasn't actually a shortage.
There were supply line issues,
and then we saw cost increase. We saw wait times for like commodities. But I never in 2020 couldn't pick up my phone and just DoorDash something.
Sure. I remember some very industrious restaurateurs. They started offering a roll of toilet paper with pickup orders.
So funny
because they had restaurant amounts of toilet paper that were closed for business. I swear we're going to talk about The Last of Us, but
this is all about The Last of Us, in my opinion.
The Last of Us is about scarcity as well. Yeah. I mean, there's this like. Well, again, it's an illusion of scarcity because as we go through the game, like your health, like sure you can find health kits, and there's like the DLC Left Behind is half of it is dedicated toward finding a usable medical kit, but the other side is just like there's just food everywhere. Like there's still canned food, and like that is your like health packs. I don't know where I'm going with this, but I do not have faith in humanity to do the right thing. And I think that's one of those debates. You can debate both sides while playing The Last of Us, is that people are inherently good or people are inherently bad.
Yeah. I'll make two more quick notes on this philosophical debate side of this before we go on. One, I'll invite you to read The Dawn of Everything, which is a book about egalitarian societies throughout history that are ignored by like Western civilization and like Western like sort of woke white supremacist indoctrination,
Sure.
It's like an exploration through anthropology and archaeology of like, no, there's different ways people have lived where they weren't constantly just cutting each other's throats out.
Absolutely.
And we just ignore them because they're not convenient to our like economic system we've chosen. The other is last night I watched do you know Ari Aster, who made Midsommar and Hereditary?
Sure.
I didn't know this was his movie until I started watching it. Beau is Afraid is his newest movie.
I've seen the title, but I've never seen the movie.
It's so like it's an attempt to make like a more humorous movie, but it's still weird and creepy as hell. And it's about a guy who, like, let's say has like a catastrophizing anxiety, and the world around him is like, what if his worst anxieties were true every second of his waking life?
Nice.
So the world he lives in for the first hour of the movie is like he's just in like this dingy apartment in a poor neighborhood, and there's just people in the streets just losing their minds. So it's like if he walks out the door, guys just run at him with knives.
Oh wow.
And it's just like, it's so funny because it's obviously like this parody of like what a reactionary conservative who are the people who've taken over the country think it's like out there.
Sure.
But there's like this weird nugget of truth to it, to this weird sick desperation in people of like, I gotta fucking survive, I'm gonna kill everybody.
Yep.
It just made me think of this game a lot. It was like almost like a more humorous take on like what I think this game is trying to do. And I'll say this maybe later, like as sort of a bottom line review, because like a lot of times I feel like in The Last of Us, Neil Druckmann is just sort of like throwing this very quote unquote prestige-y stuff at you and then looking back and going, get it? And I'm like, not really. Like, I get you think you said something, but I don't get what it is. And if I get what I think you're saying, it's pretty dark and pessimistic.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway, that's just about the guy saying survival of the fittest.
Survival of the fittest.
So anyway, back to the game.
Okay, so this is the segment where okay, Henry has a safe house that he's decided to trust Joel and Ellie enough to take them to it, so they can bed down. And because the plan is to get to, do you know the name of the bridge that they're trying to go to in Pittsburgh?
Mm-mm.
It's just like a golden arched bridge.
I believe it's where the mouth of the Ohio River is, though.
Oh wow!
If you follow that where the bridge, you'll end up at my house.
Dang, what that mouth do?
So yeah,
they're walking through an old toy store, and this is one of the worst moments of the game, in my opinion. I don't really care for the Henry and Sam segment. In previous episodes we have lauded this game. I think we've applauded this game. We have celebrated this game for having really good pacing. But this is the part of the game that I just wish I could press fast forward on a little bit.
Yeah.
But they go to this old toy store. Josh, did you look at the wares in this toy store? Did you see the meta jokes that they're making?
I did not.
There's board games along the wall. There's a board game for Jack and Daxter. There's a board game for Uncharted.
Oh no, I found the Easter eggs later at the university. There's an office that has Nathan Drake, I think Jack and Crash Bandicoot, basically like Funko Pops on the wall. That's the only little Easter egg like that I found.
It's the first part of this game that I literally just went boo. But okay, so the story part is that Sam, he's Ellie's age. He's a bit reserved. He's shy, quiet. He seems to be like embarrassed just to be alive. One of those teenagers that is just like, I can't do anything right. His brother's very overbearing. At first I thought Henry was his father, but he's his older brother. Henry, he was only like 5 or 6 when the bombs dropped, but no, when the mushrooms dropped at the cordyceps brain infection outbreak. He was a little kid, so he's basically been raised in this, as has his brother Henry, Sam.
Mm-hmm.
But Sam picks up you described it as a Gundam or a Voltron figure. I describe it as a Megazord.
Yeah.
It just looks like a giant fighting robot action figure. And Henry is just like, what's the rule? What is the rule? And the rule is we only take what we need, which is an interesting rule in this like post-apocalyptic like hellscape where there's just like, you don't know when you're going to find supplies ever again.
Yeah.
Like everything, like it is this, like, it's not an illusion of scarcity in certain senses. Like there is a finite amount of resources. And so the fact that he's just like, no, we don't take anything unnecessary is both utilitarian, but also savage. Cause this is a kid that's just trying to like, his eye was drawn to a colorful thing that is just there to make you happy. Yeah. And his brother's saying, no, do not be happy. We are surviving.
This is a moment where I feel like Neil looks back at the camera and stares at me and go, get it? There's no room for joy in this world. Anyway, back to murdering men.
Yes. But think about this in terms of the difference between Joel and Henry. Joel is actively collecting comic books for Ellie. He is finding these things for her, and he sees it and he goes, I bet Ellie would like that. And he picks it up. In my game experience, there's never a time where Joel's like, Ellie, I found all these comic books for you. There's no like acknowledgement of it, but I assume after the game is finished, he's like, oh, by the way, happy birthday or whatever. Like here's like 20 comic books.
We can't see a nice moment.
No,
we don't
deserve
put that on screen. No.
I just thought that was an interesting, parallel, or I guess the opposite of a parallel.
Yeah. Because it's easy. And I still like, I think that's a fair argument. It doesn't sell me on liking Joel, but like, there's attempts. They attempt to make you like him in some ways. I can give it that
for sure. So the plan. So that Henry and Sam, they've got this like they're. I almost said renting out. They are. They're sheltered in an old like corporate. Like it looks like a branding agency's office. Yeah, architecture. I've worked in these types of offices before. They made a mistake hiring me. It's not my lifestyle.
Yeah, I would die if I had to work in one of these again.
Thank God Camp Video Games has a 401k.
Yeah, all the money we make on this, I tell you what.
So the boys, Henry and Sam, they want to join up with the Fireflies. The Fireflies again and again. I'm just thinking the Rebel Alliance. Like they're looking for this mystical band of freedom fighters who are, trying to save humanity. And it's unsurprisingly, like Joel is a little jaded on them already. He doesn't totally see eye to eye with their mission statement, and it almost looks like Henry and Joel are about to start fighting again after he tells him that he's about to join the Fireflies, but Joel's like, no, I'm looking for him too. Like Joel's also, he's got no filter. Like he is just such a gruff, misanthrope who just he can't hide his resentment or his disdain for people that are holding out hope.
Sounds like Joel needs to go to therapy.
Gosh, that's the DLC.
De-escalate some of this toxic masculinity.
Well, my father was very distant, and we didn't have much money growing up.
Well, I watched my daughter get murdered in my arms, and
me and Tommy, we experimented. And no, okay. So the plan that Henry's concocted is they're gonna hit this bridge that's got a military style blockade up. It's being patrolled by the hunters. These are the bad boys. I almost said Batty boys. Big ups to all the Batty boys out there. Guan. No, but the bad boys that are trying to keep the bridge under lock and key for some reason. For some reason, I don't know. Their modus operandus is if they see somebody, they kill them so that they can take their resources.
I guess like being at the sort of the mouths of the city, because that's kind of like how we got here in the first place. That you can just, anybody who happens to unfortunately find themselves trying to pass through Pittsburgh is intercepted and has all their life and resources taken from them.
True. This is a moment for Joel to kind of see Ellie as a kid should be, which is like happy, smiling, talking with a new friend, eating. They're eating blueberries. I guess they found some dehydrated blueberries. Love that for them. Great snack. You know what? Top 10 post-apocalyptic snacks.
Blueberries.
Dehydrated blueberries for sure. People, beef jerky. What else would you eat?
I'd be dead. We've been.
Oh yeah. Well, I'd eat you then.
I'd be so dead so fast. I just don't even care.
Okay, so they rest for the night in this branding agency or architectural office, and that night they go to the bridge, and this is another fun little sneaking section until it's not. But the Humvee starts chasing them again, and they are basically forced in like a bottleneck on the bridge where there's a locked door in front. Joel's already lifted Sam and Henry onto like a raised platform that'll allow them to get over the gate. And Ellie has also gone up, but then the ladder breaks. And upon realizing that like they can't save Joel from like the Humvee is just like it's like blasting through doors on the bridge. Like big, I say doors, I mean like metal gates, like gigantic like steel gates. And basically, really, like Henry makes the decision to run. They can't save Joel. Joel's stuck down in the firing line while everyone else is up on this raised platform. But Ellie decides to stay back and to help Joel. And she jumps off and she's just like, "We stick together."
Yeah,
I get it, Neil.
Yeah,
like,
there's a couple moments also with Sam and Henry. Like basically every major beat that happened with them, just be like, all right, which one of you's gonna die? Which one of you's gonna die? Like, you meet them, I'm like, all right, one or both of them's dying. This happens, I'm like, oh yeah, they're definitely gonna die.
Oh yeah. So they're they're cornered at this point after they do a little running around, and the Humvees got them with their backs to a broken bridge, rushing river beneath them, and Joel and Ellie are like,
I didn't kill my wife.
oh man. And Ellie she jumps off the bridge. Remember, Ellie doesn't know how to swim, and she knows that if they stay to try to fight this Humvee, which is what Joel's only plan was, he was like, Ellie, how many bullets do you have? She's like, we're gonna die if we try to fight this armored vehicle that's got a 50 caliber machine gun with unlimited ammunition. Like, we're gonna die if we stay here. So she jumps off, knowing that Joel will jump with her. It's a leap of faith in the most purest of terms. She's like, you'll keep me afloat, I believe is her wording. And they jump into the river to survive this assault from the Humvee, but Joel gets a hold of Ellie, and then he smashes into a rock, knocked unconscious.
Yeah.
And that's how the game ends. They just drown in a river. Isn't that crazy?
About 1,000 moments in this game where I'm like, you want me to buy this gritty realism, but I'm like, no, that is absolutely a 3-month hospital stay before you're functional again.
Sure.
I just don't know. Just doesn't.
Okay.
It never clicks for me. The level of verisimilitude and like the gritty, realistic. Oh, I want you to feel like you're really there, and then just fantastical feats of superhuman strength like are just butting heads constantly for me in a way that doesn't work. And that's like what's beautiful about video games is that like it's so easy to make that work. And like something about how far this game takes the realism just makes it never click for me.
Sure. Plenty of clickers.
Yeah.
But it turns out Henry and Sam saved Ellie and Joel from the river. They were able to pull him out of the water. Joel comes to and immediately pulls his gun on Henry, but Henry again talks him down with look, words worked again. A gun is pulled on somebody and no one is shot. Yeah. It's a rare occasion in this game, but we've had 2 of them back to back. Henry says, you're going to be happy you didn't kill me, because they're working their way toward a radio tower, which is that is going to be their contact point for the Fireflies, or at least that's a supplies. They're going to pick up supplies there for sure. Mm-hmm. Then we go through the sewers section. And this is where
I hate this.
This is a drag, man. Like a literal, just like, okay, here we are. We're doing this thing. The only interesting part of the sewers for me is the backstory with Ish. Did you read any of the files that talk about a survivor named Ish? He was a fisherman.
Yeah.
You find the first you find his old wrecked boat off the riverbank. And basically Ish's story is like when the outbreak went viral, he, instead of hunkering down in a bomb shelter or in a quarantine zone, he just stayed on his boat for as long as he could hold out. And once he finally ran out of supplies and his boat was beyond repair, he starts living in the sewers. And you find all these documents as you go through, but in the sewers themselves, you find proof of like a pretty solid, like little outpost of human life. A couple families were sticking it out in the sewers.
I hated this.
Elaborate.
This felt like the most like in your face, darkest moment. Like I've said a little earlier, of just like, the developers looking at me and going, see how fucked up this is.
Yeah.
Was like, and I don't remember how exactly like the details of this little plot you don't see ties in with what you're talking about, like these notes from Ish. I just remember like you are finding like, oh, people were surviving in these sewers, and for some reason there's still a bunch of zombies down here, which is another that's off the track of where I'm
Someone
going.
left
but
one door open and an infected got in
Yeah.
and then wiped out this entire bunker.
yeah,
bummer.
But like, so I forget if it happens more than once, but you walk into a room and there's like a tarp over like what we're supposed to assume are like children who were shot in the head.
Yeah.
And somebody painted "they didn't suffer," I believe, on the wall. And I'm
Yeah.
like, just like, fuck you. Like, just fuck you. It's so mean. It's like, I got the point.
Well, this
Like-
is being observed by two men who are taking care of young people, and like the world is not going to it's not going to be picky about who it kills. Everybody is vulnerable, in especially the younglings.
Yeah.
And like, you know, I mean, going through the hunters section where they don't keep kids around, they're making a case that there are still good people who are just trying to take care of their families or of their neighbors. Because Ish, he's just some guy who he met a family and he traded them some bullets for some food. I think you know, just like establishing trust. And Ish, again, he's like, I trust these people because they have kids. And I mean, that's when we talk about like the redemption arc of Joel, the quote unquote redemption arc of Joel. It's all centered around taking care of someone beside himself. And in this case, it's been, you know, a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah.
And, you know, I mean, the hunters are a reminder of how bad people can get. And stories like Ish's are a reminder of the fact that like, there is goodness inherent in some people, and all they want to do. He didn't try to take advantage of these families and just rob them for their resources. He instead was like, hey, I found a safe place in the sewers. Come join me. Like, let's do this. Like, let's rebuild society one family at a time.
Yeah. I just feel like you're holding a lot more water for Neil than he put like thought into.
You know,
I don't know.
I
Like,
just don't think about Neil while I'm doing this
Right,
because
right,
like
right.
this is because like I you know, I'll read a book and I don't say, oh, the author every 5 pages.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I let it speak for itself. And that's what the story is doing here. I do think that they're making a clear line because the characters mention it. They're like, I trust you because you have kids. And Henry says the same thing. He was like, oh, like he's not a bad guy. He's got a kid.
yeah. I just, for me, just my tastes, like, and it comes up more throughout the game. I think the way you handle violence towards children, especially in fantasy, in fiction, especially in a video game, ostensibly entertainment, I think it matters. And to me, it just comes off edgelordy a lot in this game.
Sure.
Especially later, we're gonna take control of Ellie, and like I'll talk about it more then, but like there's a boss fight, and like I died a few times, and like you have to watch this brutal animation of this child being murdered by an adult man several times, and like I'm sorry, like it's just a turnoff to me.
Sure. And this is where you know, not everyone likes strawberry ice cream. You know, there's a flair. I'm not bothered by because
I love violence in my entertainment, but it's gotta there's ways to handle it and ways not to for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I don't even need to remind myself these aren't real. Like none of this is real, but it's also it's not inventing the wheel here. Like violence against children, pretty prevalent problem, and if you use it to remind the audience that this is what bad people do, then that's just their way of portraying a bad person.
Yeah,
and it makes you root against that person all the more, and it helps kind of, you know, set the stakes. Like the stakes in this world aren't like, I mean, think about like, I don't know why I'm thinking about Star Wars so much right now because I don't really think about Star Wars very much, but like when Grand Moff Tarkin destroyed Alderaan, like you just think of it as like he's killing a bunch of soldiers.
Yeah,
but
I didn't need to see close-ups of like children's bones being exploded to understand how
save
bad
that for the prequels. I don't know. But yeah. So some kids got killed. What I want to talk about is you find a sawed-off shotgun in this segment, which is very
You do?
fun. Yeah,
Wait,
you find
is this different than the shotgun I already had?
yeah, you find it's one of your pistols. It's a
Oh yeah.
it's
Okay.
a pistol shotgun, but it looks to be it doesn't make total sense. But I'm not trying to be guns.com right now, but the sawed-off shotgun, it has a 2-round capacity, which if it was like the Mad Max style sawed-off shotgun, that makes sense. Like a side-by-side double barrel shotgun. Yeah, that can only hold 2 shells. But this is a semi-automatic shotgun that has like a tube-fed magazine that works much like the pump action shotgun that Joel uses. But it only has a 2-round capacity. And that, what I'm trying to say is that like, you don't build a semi-automatic shotgun to have a 2-round capacity.
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make a lick of sense. I am done being I'm logging out of guns.com right now.
I mean, to your point from a complete idiot, I did not find this gun very useful in my playthrough, if I recall. I was a shotgun boy 90% of the time, I believe.
Absolutely.
The shotgun did most of the work for me throughout the game.
Now, it should be said, you're playing on easy mode where the amount of shotgun ammunition that you're able to find is going to make it easier to depend solely on the shotgun. Playing through on hard mode, or I think the newer hard mode is called grounded.
Yeah.
You need to use every single weapon in your armory.
Yeah, I would have to like rotate occasionally, but I found like when I'd hit those upgrade bench tables, which I don't know if we've talked about yet, how like they were very difficult to make the decisions of what to upgrade. I usually found myself just going straight up like just build the heck out of that shotgun.
Sure,
You know?
sure.
And then like you have to sit there and wait for Joel to like physically manipulate the thing, because this game's all about putting you in the moment,
Yeah.
making it real as possible. It can't just go da 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 and you get an upgrade.
Da 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 da.
Yeah.
Ba, 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 da, da. I like that the gun table, the workbench, because like that's the game's way of leveling up.
Yeah.
I guess that and the supplements that you
The
find.
pills.
You find pills and they
We
make
talked
you
about the pills a bit.
Yeah,
I think we
the-
had to talk about the workbench.
if you take enough pills, you'll become a better person.
Any handful of pills makes you smarter, stronger, and faster.
Yep. And I, for some reason, I'm better at stabbing people with a shiv, and I can get 2 kills out of 1 shiv now.
And sex. I took this handful of pills. I got more HP and my dick's hard all the time.
And that brings us to our first sponsor, BlueChew.com. No, I'm joking. We don't have a sponsor. I wish we did. So the sewers. Sam and Joel get separated from Henry and Ellie. So, now Joel's adventuring with a different 14-year-old, and it doesn't make a lick of difference.
Quite obvious. What's happening here is showing. Well, yeah, it does make a lick of difference in the gameplay, but it is sort of reinforcing. Like, no, it really is. It's got to be Joel and Ellie. It doesn't work otherwise.
Yeah.
Even though you do just fine. I'm scrubbing through the footage. I just found the family that's all buried. Back to where they're separated.
So yeah, they get separated by like a convenient metal door that I think was trap active. There's a couple of like sound traps that they encounter, which is it's a pretty simple, just like a bucket full of bottles is connected to a door, and when you open the door, the rope lets the bottles fall out of the bucket and breaks. Makes for a perimeter alarm. It's not going to hurt anybody, but it's just there for letting you know, hey, someone came through that door, which is very realistic. People would make that kind of stuff. I follow some weird pages on YouTube. Like YouTube doesn't know what I am at this point. The algorithm is just like, oh, you're like, are you a survivalist like gun nut, or are you?
I think that's just the direction the internet is going.
Yeah,
it's just like every algorithm of content feed. It just feels designed to make the viewer insane.
Yeah. Here's some dash cam footage.
Yeah.
yeah. But I see a lot of like camping security videos, like how to safely camp in enemy territory.
God, we're so cooked.
Yeah,
It's over.
Life is interesting. But those sound perimeter alarms. That some people are making these types of traps with like shotgun shells. Is just like, don't kill people just because you have a hard time sleeping.
Yeah.
Like, but there's a great we just rolled through the footage of this like locker room standoff. There's a couple of good like what is this? It's like you're dealing with like a blitzkrieg of infected, and it's like that old. Like, it reminds me of Left 4 Dead at moments where you're just like, the only objective right now is to stand
Smash
your
zombie
ground.
face. Yeah.
Castle laws. And, so what they find after they leave this sewage area is if they had entered through the doors that they exited, they would have seen like, do not enter dead or infected inside. You remember that, like that door in The Walking Dead?
Yeah,
do
that's
not
exactly what I was
dead
thinking
enter
of.
inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we're now getting to one of my favorite moments of the game. It's the sniper's nest moment where the Joel and Ellie and Henry and Sam, they're like getting to this like cul-de-sac or this little like strip of like suburban America, and a sniper opens fire on them, pinning them.
First, you get another one of these moments that I keep talking about of like, you just climbed the mountain and then you look up and there's another peak where they see the radio tower and it's off in the distance. You go, I'm going to have to go through some bullshit to get there.
Yep. We ain't through this yet. I'm getting too old for this.
Oh, God. I also want to talk about this thing that's on the screen right now. This like X with the numbers.
Yeah, what's up with that?
So
is that like Katrina era stuff?
Yeah, that's why I stopped and like was talking about it on the footage. I was like, oh, dude, this is dark, because like this is something I really remember from Katrina, was they'd put an X on a house and there's these 4 numbers. Each quadrant gets a number, and then it's like a code. I think one is like the date it was marked.
Yeah.
One is how many dead were inside. Another might be like whether they think it's salvageable or not. It's just like, ooh, this
getting
is
close to home there. Yeah.
A little too real at times.
I mean,
but beyond that, like, you start exploring this neighborhood, and I'm like, I'd live here. I just was like, if anybody who listens to this lives in a Pittsburgh suburb, I'm like, do they have this like these chill ass neighborhoods with like, it's like these like rows of houses that all have raised porches facing the street towards each
really
other.
Nice.
I'm like, dude, I'd live there as heck.
It reminds me of where I grew up in Atlanta, honestly, but I'm sure Pittsburgh's got some of that. It's an old city.
It reminds me of like neighborhoods in Chicago will have this, but it'll be like in the back, like facing an alley, where they'll have like these wooded porches going up like all 3 floors, and I don't know. I was like, oh, dude, I just kind of liked the architecture and urban planning of this neighborhood, which is something that I need to, because I have so many negative things to say about this game that I will go back and sort of reiterate, like, I see where it's good. This is pretty good design.
Yeah, absolutely.
Anyway, we're approaching the sniper's nest as you do a little bit of what's the word? Scavenging through this area.
Oh, you mean looting?
Looting. Yeah. Speaking of New Orleans, this is I think another thing I said, because I just started thinking about Katrina and like the way we treat these moments when they happen. It's just, I don't know. It's interesting, like how that happened. Like, God, what a disaster that was. It's insane. Like how bad that was. And like, just like COVID, we just sort of memory hole it. And like, even now it's like, oh, huge neighborhoods in LA burnt down. And we just are like, that was 2 weeks ago. We're like, what are you talking about?
Well,
everything's fine. But like, I will say, on the note of like Katrina and LA burning, as like, I like to counter your argument about like, human nature is like, no, was it a zombie apocalypse? No. But like the people who it was happening to didn't just start pointing guns at each other. You know, it was like,
Yeah.
And with Katrina, it's the government came in and started pointing guns at people because they said, "Oh, you're looting," you know, when they're just like, "I just scrounge stuff. I don't know. We've lost everything,"
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
But anyway,
I particularly like the sniper section because it makes you feel like
it's a pretty good time.
It's a good time. It's like strategically speaking, it's just like there's several different ways you can go about, you know, doing it. Cause the idea is like Joel is gonna rush ahead to try to get an angle on the sniper. And the way I was playing it, like, oh, okay, I have a high-powered rifle with a scope.
You thought you had to take out the sniper from the ground?
We all saw Saving Private Ryan. You know how cool a sniper fight can be.
I was thinking, not Saving Private Ryan.
Enemy at the Gates.
Stanley Kubrick movie.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket. So the final act of Full Metal Jacket.
Oh,
in
yeah.
This segment was, I was expecting to walk in on the sniper going, "Kill me, kill me."
MICKEYMOUSE. Mickey Mouse. Man, Kubrick. Good guy.
Yeah. A much more impactful, you know, for me, story about the human condition in wartime. Because, you know, seeing the humanity of the enemy is something else. Whereas here it's just like, just kill these video game goblins.
For sure.
But I don't remember my first approach here. I think I kept finding myself like going, "Oh, I have a little bit of clarity and an angle on the guy."
Yeah.
And I'd pull out my rifle or something, and then it'll just put a big sun glare on the window. And I
Yeah.
don't know if that was on purpose.
It's to show you where the sniper is.
Yeah, but I don't know if it was also to stop you from trying to shoot him from the ground.
I don't know. Very similarly to the first encounter with the Humvee, where you just need to stay out of its line of sight. Like, or it will immediately start shooting you. That's basically the same function as the sniper, except the sniper the entire time is taunting you from his nest. He's like, "I see you, you fucking idiot." And like, it's great. It's really fun, honestly. We talked about this last episode. I had a lot of fun repeating or trying encounters over again. Playing on hard mode, sometimes I would I would waste some very, very precious ammunition because like in hard mode, you're not killing every enemy. Like,
I mean, is it like if I miss a shot, it's like, ah, shit, reload?
If you're playing like me, yes, where like I am trying to save as much ammo for whatever bigger fights that are ahead, and like, you know, I'm even like I'm not even wasting shivs on humans. I'm just using them on clickers because they're such like, you don't find that many blades and you don't find that much binding, and it's just like, yeah, the resource management becomes a lot more survival horror-esque in hard mode. But I really liked this segment, and then you realize as you keep playing through that, like, okay, I'm not trying to shoot the sniper, I'm trying to get to the sniper.
Yeah.
And you get to like work your way through some bombed out houses. It's just fun. It's good, clean fun, you know, getting shot at.
Yeah, I mean, this is pure video game, so I'm into this part.
Yeah. This particular moment reminded me a lot of Metal Gear Solid 3 again, which
that's the fight where the sniper guy in the woods.
The end.
That guy. I hated that part.
I love it. I love it.
Did not understand. You know, excuse me for thinking of the creator. I was like, Kojima, what do you want me to do?
Kojima didn't even get what he wanted with that. He wanted that fight to literally take 2 weeks to complete.
Yeah.
He wanted you to feel like,
isn't that like an option? Like, can't you just wait him out?
so what you can't, okay, in our brief Metal Gear Solid 3 discussion, you can set the internal clock ahead on your PlayStation and or you just put the game down, touch grass for a couple of weeks, come back, the end, who is like a 900-year-old sniper, he dies of old age. And then you can just find his corpse and
for what it's worth, back to The Last of Us, if you're on YouTube, I'm at the point where I decided I could try to firebomb the sniper out.
I did all the same stuff we did. Yeah, we had the same ideas. Just doesn't work.
Yeah, just same way I didn't know what Kojima wanted from me here. I didn't know what Neil wanted from me here.
Druckmann wants you to suffer for your art, man. So, Tommy, what am I saying? Joel, he makes his way to the sniper nest, kills the sniper, and then, convenient, he has a sniper rifle with unlimited ammunition to back up Ellie and Henry and Sam as they get attacked by more hunters.
Very video gamey good time there.
Yeah. And it's a sniper moment with unlimited ammo, so have fun. And the Humvee comes back, which you defeat the Humvee. You remember how you defeat the Humvee? It's very fun.
Does the guy crawl out?
There's so the Humvee is like chasing down Ellie and the gang, and a guy pops out of the top to throw a Molotov cocktail at them. You shoot the guy, he drops the Molotov cocktail into the Humvee.
Oh, yeah.
Catches on fire, the Humvee crashes.
Another very Metal Gear Solid moment.
Yeah, very cool. But all this noise has drawn more infected, and gosh golly, now you gotta shoot a bunch of infected to with this unlimited sniper rifle.
Yeah.
And blah blah blah. My God. Do you want to get to the point where we realize that Sam got bit by an infected?
Yeah, which was pretty clear that was going to be the move at this point. Is that one or both of these guys is gonna get bit.
Yeah,
and he's trying to hide it a little bit, and yada yada yada.
So after all the fracas goes down, and everybody thinks everybody's fine, and they're bedding down for the night. Ellie and Sam have a moment to kind of like catch up and to talk about what they're going through. Sam asks Ellie like what she's most afraid of, and for Ellie, it's being left alone. Makes sense given her life at this point. It's been very tragic. Everyone she's loved has left her or died. And for Sam, his big fear is that if he gets infected, his consciousness will remain while he loses control over himself.
Yeah,
and
that's a fair fear.
This is we're back to zombie tropes 101 here, where it's just like we've been talking about this since 1974.
Yeah.
Like it's relevant. I mean, it's more
like
just an extension of what happens to us after we die.
And I feel like as like just generally white Midwestern millennial males, we've been talking about this since we were teenagers.
Yeah. Yeah, if I get bit, I'm just gonna blow my fucking brains out.
Yeah, and this is like, I don't know if it's just like every time there's downtime, the scenes where you get like, what are these people's interests? What are their lives like? Are where there's again this like friction of something not clicking in this world for me about the fact that it's 20 years later. Like when Henry and Joel are talking about like
motorcycles,
Harleys,
hogs,
dude, and I'm like, okay, Henry would have been like 5 to 7. Like, what would his interest in motorcycles be? And it's also just like, I don't know, just sort of like boring man thing to pick as like a interest.
Completely agree. That is so stupid. Ellie even is just like, she's like, what do you mean you think they're the best? You've never ridden on one. And Henry's just like, I dream about them.
Because like, you're a commercial you saw when you were 5, I guess. Like, and then with Ellie and Sam, she talks about her fears, and she says scorpions are pretty creepy.
She's deflecting,
but like, then it just all it does is raise a million questions for me of like, what's the world like? Does she go to a school where she has books where she's seen scorpions, or like, do people tell stories? Like, what is this world? It doesn't come together when we see it do anything other than violence.
That's a worthwhile question. The game has done some legwork to answer that, though. Ellie grew up in a quarantine zone in a military school. Mm-hmm. So she had a pretty normal... I mean, she even got vaccinated, like, at this school. I don't know for what. Hopefully polio.
Good luck, everybody.
Stay safe out there, everybody. Local elections. But... So Ellie had like she's had, all things considered, one of the more normal lives out of everybody involved here. She's had the most sheltered and comfortable life compared to pretty much everybody else.
Which only raises more questions for me about
Of like why her quarantine zone worked.
Yeah, I mean, I played the DLC, and we'll probably talk about it more in like a final episode or something. But like, it just raised a lot of questions about like it's people revolt to the authoritarianism of that world as if they still have a consciousness of what our modern present safe world is like, in a way that like doesn't make sense for me when you say this is 20 years later. Like for Ellie, like that authoritarianism being all she knows, I feel like she'd be like, yeah, it's just what the world's like.
She's just a Nazi youth.
Yeah, like, but her friend like joins the Fireflies to resist.
Yeah,
and like I'm just like I don't understand. I need more of that dynamic. I wish the game lived in that part of the story more, so I could understand the world better and think and understand something beyond just violence. You know?
Sure. Really excited for you to play the sequel if you choose to. If not, we'll just talk about season 2 of the game or the show. So Ellie, in like the sweetest gesture caught on video game film, she took that Megazord action figure from the toy store for Sam. She gives it to him at this point. She's like, hey, what Henry doesn't know you have, he can't yell at you for. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
This is her saying, give childhood one more chance. You've still got a little bit of time to be a kid. Like,
and this is after he just has explained to her how freaked out he is all day, every day of becoming a zombie.
Yeah. And right now they're in a safe place. They have food. He's like nervously sorting through cans of peaches and ground meat. Like, one of the cans has like it's like a can of ground meat. I've bought like canned like chicken and obviously like tuna and stuff like that, but like canned ground beef. We don't see that as much.
Right.
I one time, Manwich, like the Sloppy Joe canned Sloppy Joe mix.
I've had like canned Skyline.
Me too.
That's probably the only like canned meat like that I ever eat. Every once in a great while, I'll get that.
I bought Manwich thinking that it was like canned Sloppy Joe all together, but it's just ketchup sauce basically.
Ew.
And so I just like had buns and sauce, and I was like, damn, like I need to.
That's some dirtbag shit right there.
I was just like, apparently whenever I go to the grocery store, I'm illiterate. I just don't read shit anymore. Like I 3 times in a row, I accidentally bought vanilla Greek yogurt. Just because I didn't read it. I didn't want vanilla Greek yogurt. I just want some plain yogurt.
I can't even go to the grocery store anymore. It's like such a weird like class privilege thing that I have, that I can just go to like our local historic farmers market and do 99% of my grocery shopping there.
That's better. That's not your fault. That is a good thing that you have.
Right. But it is like a privilege I'm acknowledging before I tell the next part of the story. Because like when I go to a Kroger, I feel like I'm in The Last of Us. Like, it's just like, or like not quite The Last. It's like The Last of Us meets like a cyberpunk world, because like as like the people there seem just like more desperate and feral. Like there's like a weird desperation to just like people just scrounging through Kroger. And then there's like surveillance robots that follow you around now.
Yeah.
It's psychotic. And like all the like stuff, like the needs, like toiletries are behind like glass. And it's just like, what are we doing? It's over, dude. Like it just feels like we are in Endgame lately.
Yeah. We'll probably survive long enough to publish this. At least.
And like you walk in and there's like 3 like strung out people like begging for change for like whatever they're addicted to, and like that's fine, whatever, as long because they never do more than just say like, hey, kid, got some change. And then 10 feet from them are like 3 like private like security guards, like decked out with guns and a Punisher patch like on their vest. It's just like, what are we doing, dude? And like I could relate it to this game in that like there's something about that like visual what's the word I'm looking for? There's something just about this like sense of like anticipation of violence in like the way like we have these security guards everywhere that like heightens everyone's nervous system.
Yeah.
In like anticipation of like everyone's out to get me. Like, and that's that feeling I'm talking about that like I get when I'm at Kroger and I don't like about this game.
Yeah. I think
I want more moments to just chill with my buds like a Dragon Quest game.
the main problem is private property.
Yeah.
That's really what we're dealing with here.
True.
Because at The Last of Us, like, it's not like when you have your fun adventure with Bill, it's not like he's like, this is my home, this is my yard. Like he's just like living wherever he can like fortify. There is no more private property really. Like there's just like everyone is living in the husk of civilization.
Yeah.
And we are in the pre-husk. It's like when a bullet goes off. First the firing pin hits a primer, and that creates a small explosion, which then triggers a larger explosion, which is all of the powder that's behind the projectile. We are living in the primer moment of society before the biggest explosions and then the propellant.
Yeah, they I also think of it a lot in terms of like popcorn. Like we're all sort of just stewing in this microwave and we're all just like sort of popcorn kernels, and when you see like these horrifying moments of violence, I think like the most recent ones are like the guy who blew himself up on New Year's Day outside Trump Tower, the guy who drove through a crowd on New Year's Eve. Like those are popcorn kernels popping, you know, of just like society just dropped this person too far off the edge of an already like tenuous situation and then pop and like it took some other kernels out with it.
Jesus Christ.
And that's just going to keep happening. And I don't know if it's going to be like so many pop at once that we end up in Last of Us times or somehow we fix it, but it don't feel good right now. So anyway, Sam turns into a zombie.
Sam's a zombie. He got bit in the leg during that sniper segment.
Yeah.
And he's attacking Ellie. So at this point, you know, the way we understand the cordyceps brain fungus infection is that first you're a screamer, which is just a zombie. And then you're a clicker, and then you're a bloater. So he's in the very, very, very early stages of infection right now. So he's just a screaming zombie baby boy.
Yeah.
And and Henry kills Sam.
Yeah.
And he starts blaming Joel that this is all his fault that Sam got hurt, which, I mean, complete nonsense. This is nobody's fault. This is just the world they live in.
But in that moment, I get it. You know?
Sure. But I think we're led to believe that like Henry is a good guy. He is very hard on his little brother out of love because he wants what's best for him, right? He's like he is kind of that practitioner of it's a hard world and I need you to toughen up to live in it. And that's what he's doing to his younger brother Sam. Emotionally, it's not great for Sam. He's got a stunted childhood where he's been forced to be a child soldier in his own way. He's had to fight and kill just as much as, you know, Ellie has, and bummer lifestyle. But you understand that Henry is doing what he's doing out of love and duty to his brother. So in a final act of being a quote unquote good person, he kills himself because he was about to kill Joel and he knows that that's not the right thing to do. Like, and I do think like he was just like, if I don't do this, I'm going to hurt somebody else. And last episode, I might have made my opinions on suicide a little too aggressively, where I'm just like, it makes me suicide is something that makes me
I think
angry.
you came back around and covered the bases, but you're welcome to state it again.
What I'm saying in this case, I think he made the right decision.
I just, as a viewer at this point in the game, God, I'm just like, so I was like, again, sort of see it coming from a mile away, and then it happens, and I'm just like, fuck you, like, because it's so viscerally portrayed.
Yeah.
For something that's so obvious, you know, that it just feels like it's beating me over the head. That in that moment of playing the game, I was like, And that's the end of this play session.
Yep. Yeah. Same.
But then like it cuts to black, hangs there, says fall, hangs on black for a lot longer, and I believe there's probably one of their excellent music cues. Come back to this green space, this beautiful fog, and I'm like, but that's pretty good.
Yep.
It's like it feels both obvious and really well executed at the same time. That like, yeah, no, I hate this game, but I get why it's good. And like it's fine. I don't mind that I played it.
The seasonal chapter breaks are a good
They're
stylistic choice.
They're very well dropped. I will give them that. And it emphasizes that this game is being very selective about what you are seeing in these people's experiences,
Yes.
and like what it wants you to take away from them. Again, I feel like it's a little too glaringly obvious, like they're staring at me going, get it, but like that the choice to pace a video game that way is something that is fresh and unique in the moment that it came out in 2013.
Right.
That I think, and it is like still not very well learned from. We still have endless open world games where you're just running around doing nonsense for 10 hours at a time before anything happens.
Sure.
And then like when they do try to make something happen, you're like, wait, what was going on? Why do I care? You know?
Are there any open world zombie games?
Not that I'm aware
DayZ,
of.
I think, is one.
Yeah.
I haven't
Not
played
exactly
that.
my genre.
Yeah,
so I
yeah,
wouldn't
that's
know,
true.
But
Campers, let us know in the comments. What's your favorite open world zombie game? I'm actually interested.
yeah.
Okay, so that was the end of the summer, right? Right? Is that how the
Yeah,
seasons
the
work?
next one is fall.
Right. Fall. And I think, yeah, the choice to use the fall, because you can get a double meaning out of that. It's kind of a nice stylistic touch. Joel and Ellie are looking for Tommy. So they're in Jackson, Colorado, I think is the state they're in.
I just noticed from the footage, because they've been talking about Jackson City, which I think Tennessee, is it?
I don't know.
Well, I don't know. For some reason, Tennessee
throughout
comes
this
to mind,
game,
but-
I don't know where I am most of the time.
But this is supposed to be, I'm pretty sure, Colorado area. And then it says Jackson County on this trail map, which again just reinforces to me like sort of West Mountains, Colorado.
Sure.
We're in that area.
I'm going to Jackson. And Ellie wants to talk about Sam. She still has the plastic toy. I think this might be the optional dialogue that comes up, but Ellie is just like, oh shoot. While they're walking through, they find this like hydroelectric plant, and they like, I think also one of the worst parts of this game is, Joel, swim to this place, find a wooden pallet and swim it over to Ellie, who then gets on the pallet and then push the wooden
They
pallet.
overplay that one a bit.
It
much.
happens too many times.
Yeah, I
And
call
it's-
those needle in a haystack puzzles, if I haven't said that already, where it's like the actual objects you're interacting with never change. It's always like find a pallet, get it to Ellie. And the puzzle, quote unquote, is where is the pallet? And then it's like, where does the game want you to bring the pallet so that it'll bring up the triangle button to indicate Ellie can get on?
Parts
Like
of this
that
game,
part was harder than finding the pallet half the time. I'd just be like maneuvering around where she's standing, be like, get on the pallet.
Yeah. Parts of this game don't age very well. Although I would say overall, this is a timeless game.
But I will like say I get and respect the effort of what it's doing, of like, I am the one doing the actions that are the characters learning to trust each other and cooperate.
Sure.
I get that that's the goal. I think, it's probably not aged as well as like games probably do this better. I didn't play enough of like, there's the first God of War that uses this system of like your child is like your little apprentice who like runs around and does something, but I don't remember it being as clunky as this. At least I only played like the first 4 or 5 hours.
I think if I were to find a comparison, because like again, like drawing on some like survival horror tropes in video games. The Last of Us could have made a lot more mistakes in the flavor of Resident Evil 4. The original Resident Evil 4 had what is it called, where you've got somebody that you just need to like take them places.
An escort mission.
Resident Evil 4 is a big long escort mission in certain parts, and it's such a drag and such a drudge, where it's just like you have to you remember in the Resident Evil 2 remake where like Sherry would just stop following you if you got too far away? She would just like start cowering.
Those are such a drag.
Or it's just like, don't make me come back for you, like emotionally and physically.
Keep up.
That does not happen in normal gameplay in The Last of Us. There are these moments where you have to really put some effort in to get the other character there. But in general, they really improved on like, hey, we do have somewhat of an escort. Literally, I mean, The Last of Us it's the story of an escort mission.
It's Escort Mission, the video game.
Yes, but
it fixes all that stuff.
It doesn't fall to the shortcomings of so many escort games.
Yeah. And instead of like what you're saying, where like somebody will just stop following you, it's like you learn like, okay, they're always following me, and if they stop, it's like they are like, it's almost, you know what it reminds me of in Final Fantasy VII, where you have to get into the forbidden forest or whatever, and you have to have those dig people, and you set them out.
And they start looking at different spots.
They look at where you're supposed to dig.
You got to triangulate.
Like,
oh my God.
Like your buddy starts looking at like where your goal is if there's a puzzle to stop and solve. I figured that out, I'd say 3 or 4 hours into the game, of like, oh, they've stopped following me and they're just looking at something. That means I'm supposed to like solve something here.
That's right. Campers, we have an 8-part discussion on Final Fantasy VII and some of its adaptations. Give that a listen. I'll link that below. Final Fantasy VII, a game we don't criticize nearly as much as The Last of Us. So, Joel and Ellie find a hydroelectric plant. He escorts her to the other side, and this is where we meet Tommy. Well, we've met Tommy at the very beginning of the game. This is where we meet Maria, Tommy's wife, and the leader of this outpost of humanity. I don't know what, because like we were talking about this last episode. Like, do we call these, like, are they factions in the game? They're called factions, like different, outposts of humanity. In modern times, we'd call them gangs or militias or nation states.
I mean, these guys are basically, my understanding is they are just trying to sort of rebuild a small little tribal village situation.
Yeah.
Like a self-sustaining something.
That's right. Because they've got agriculture. They've got livestock. They have horses everywhere. Like they're equipped to deal with these modern problems.
Yeah. And this is like the part that I keep critiquing about like this idea of it being 20 years later, that like I think more people would be like this and learning to cooperate with like other tribes. Yep. And it wouldn't just be like, guns at the gates all day, every day for every like surviving little tribe. The way it's portrayed throughout this game, I think more people would more spaces would be like what little glimpses you get of like the civilized, organized space of this. I just have more faith in humanity that like, if capitalism collapses, that's like what little tribes of people are going to come back and do. And they're not just going to immediately point guns and fire at everybody else who comes their way.
Yeah, for sure. Although this place has been dealing with a lot of attacks from raiders or whatever they.
And that's like the part that I'm having trouble suspending disbelief around like that there would just be constantly barbarians at the gates 20 years later.
For sure.
When we're saying no, this is the Last of Us. There's not that many people around.
Right.
You know.
I think at this point like 90% of humanity is killed off or infected. Like.
But for some reason, everywhere we go, there's an army of barbarians just ready to fight.
Right.
But this also points to what we were saying about the pacing being like they're only showing us these details for a reason.
Sure.
Which will create another moment of dissonance for me in a minute. But like
the people of Jackson, we'll just refer to them as people living in Jackson here. They got the hydroelectric plant back running when Joel gets there. Like they now have power. And the way that Tommy puts it, he's like, oh, the kids are going to be watching movies tonight.
Yeah.
Like such a simple pleasure.
That raises the question for me. It was like, does Ellie know what a movie is?
Yes,
Has she seen a movie?
She grew up with power and like all the modern conveniences. And like and if you play the DLC, like she's got a Walkman that she's been listening to. Like,
but she only has like one tape, and you get this feeling it's like it's like contraband. She has to constantly find batteries for to listen to her one tape. You know, like how much media access do they have? How much electric access?
There's a moment when looking for Bill, they find the record store, and Ellie's just like, "Oh my gosh!" Like I can't believe it's finding the treasure hoard. And then being sad, there's like, well, there's no one to listen to this with. It's kind of a bummer. And so Joel, he's ready at this point to give Ellie to Tommy to take care of the rest.
Yeah.
He's ready to just wash his hands of this. And like, it's at this moment that like, Joel is just like he's not ready to be a father yet. Like like emotionally speaking, he still isn't seeing Ellie.
He's not
like
even
this.
Thinking in those terms.
No, not at all.
Which is like what's going to take us to like the big emotional conflict of this game happens in this scenario, this scene, whatever we want to refer to it as.
So while Joel and Tommy are talking about Ellie's predicament and that like. He's like, listen, if you deliver this girl to the Fireflies, you can just take all of the guns that Marlene promised us. Like, because remember, this is the starting point is just that Joel and Tess's guns were stolen by some dirtbag that they killed, and then the Fireflies said they'd give them the guns back if they delivered this girl.
Yeah, that's 1,500 miles ago.
Yeah.
Like, what is he talking about?
I don't know, but he's just
like
doing a job
like,
right now.
Ship them UPS.
But Joel is basically just like trying to like get. He doesn't want the responsibility anymore.
Yeah, right.
The big emotional moment is that Tommy tries to give Joel a photograph.
Yeah.
From the before times, from the long agos of Joel and Sarah.
Uh-oh. Joel's triggered. He needs a safe space.
It looks like Sarah had just won like a soccer game or something.
Yeah.
You know, they're just having a fun family moment. And Tommy's like, I saved this. Like he's like, I went back to Austin a couple years ago. I found this photo. I thought you should have it. And Joel's just like, I'm good.
Yeah.
And Tommy's just like, oh, okay, I'll just hold on to this then.
Which is like, it's just like speaks volumes of like, no, he's not.
yeah, right. No, I'm good. I'm good. Oh yeah, I remember that.
No, you got problems, buddy.
No, I'm good. Right. I was trying to bring this up earlier, and I got sidetracked by the fucking the swimming section. But so Ellie and Joel find a small grave outside of the hydroelectric plant. I don't know if you saw this part. It was an optional segment that
I think I missed it.
You can walk right past it, but you just find what's obviously the grave of a child. And Joel's his thing. He's just like, oh, that's way too small of a grave. Mm-hmm. And that Ellie sees this grave and she's like, oh, I forgot to leave this plastic robot toy at the grave for Sam. And Joel is just like, Ellie, stop. Like, we don't talk about it. The quote that I pull from him, he says, things happen and we move on. That's just his life motto.
That's what you'd like to believe.
That's what,
Joel.
yeah, exactly. It's not that no, I don't wake up screaming every night, remembering my daughter dying in my arms.
If you go all the way back to our first skip to like the modern moment of the game. It's Joel like waking like
Yeah.
the man does not have a moment's
it's
peace.
fine. You drink enough, you don't dream. And so Tommy agrees. He's like, I guess I'll do it, big brother. Like these two Texans that are talking about like, I guess I'll save the world.
Yeah, it's like they already had a hard enough time sort of emotionally expressing themselves enough just being white Texan males.
Texas, and Tommy alludes to the fact that like at one point like they were both hunters together. Like they were doing all that bad boy stuff, and Tommy like is just like Tommy the same way. He's like, I wake up in a cold sweat remembering what we did or what you put me through. And Joel's response is like, what I put you through, I got you through that. Like you're alive because of me. And Tommy's response is basically like, yeah, but at what cost am I alive right now?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if they were doing the same stuff that the hunters of Pittsburgh did to them, right? Like just kill them for their supplies, unmercifully, like, zero regard for human life. Like if you've got a conscience, that's going to really weigh on it later. Like once you're like,
Joel's convinced he just doesn't have.
Yeah.
All he has to do is just wake up screaming every day.
They get interrupted. There's another fight with more hunters are attacking.
This is always another round of barbarians ready to destroy everything good in the world.
I like your use of barbarians because that's basically what they are. They're just like berserkers that are like, Rah!
It's exactly like playing Civilization. There's barbarians that are going to come around every now and again.
Speaking of Barbarian, did you see the movie Barbarian?
No.
It made a big hit a couple years ago. The director of Barbarian, I can't remember his name right now, but he has just been greenlit to direct the new Resident Evil series.
Fantastic.
We're going to get a new Resident Evil reboot movie.
Keep rebooting everything forever. I was listening to something the other day. I want to say it was like a video game podcast that had a screenwriter on.
God, can you imagine having a video game podcast? How embarrassing.
And he was, what was the movie? He wrote something good. I don't remember what movie he wrote that they had him on for, but he was just talking about like the state of the industry, and he was like, get ready for just a deluge of video game adaptations because like the well has run dry on like how much you can tap for the comic book stuff.
And comic books and nostalgia.
Now there's like, they know like, well, nostalgia is the only thing that sells. We can't do anything new. So since we've emptied the well of comics, now we've got to move on to video games even more aggressively than they already have. So this show can go on forever.
It's going to get worse and worse, honestly, because like the distinction between the games and the movies, a lot gets lost in translation, and that was the interesting part that drew me to video game adaptations.
I know, it's like there's a reason I like things as a movie. There's a reason I like things as a video game, and they don't overlap very much.
Well, we'll find out with our discussion of The Last of Us on HBO.
We'll see. Yeah.
So after Tommy sees how much Joel cares about Ellie after this attack, and they've won back their electric plant. Tommy agrees to do it, much to the chagrin of his wife, Maria, who is just like, if anything happens to Tommy, this is your fault, Joel. And like kind of puts the fear of God in Joel.
Yeah.
And
shows Joel what it's like to have another human being care about you for a minute.
Yes. When there are stakes. So hearing Joel and Tommy talk about their plans for Ellie steals a horse, runs away, gallops away, rides away, and Joel and Tommy go off after her. They fight some more bad guys, and then they find Ellie in an abandoned like ranch house or something along those lines.
Yeah.
I think we're getting to the emotional moment you were alluding to before.
Yeah, I mean, it's like this is kind of the thing the whole game hinges on.
Yeah, this is really the linchpin of the game.
Which is funny because this is the only part of the game I didn't play on a live stream.
Oh.
I like to take like an hour or two of each game just for myself.
Sure.
To just be like, just get rid of whatever the potential of an audience watching does to the experience. And this was that part. Was
That was
just
a
this
good-
like
good
hour or
moment
two.
for this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know it was coming up or anything. I was just like, I'm gonna kick the tires on my own for a while here,
Yeah.
and it was this scene of defending the dam. Ellie runs off, and then we have this moment where Joel walks in. She's reading a diary, and this is where I was finally like, it raises all those questions about like, what is their world like? Where she's reading diary, and she says like, this person's like talking about boys.
This is
and
all she had to
clothes,
worry
like,
about?
Yeah, who has time to worry about this stuff?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
like you go, oh yeah, her world is nothing like ours.
Right.
But then as they are arguing, we get to the crux of what this relationship's all about. Is that like Ellie thought she'd found somebody who wasn't going to leave her like everybody has left her.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to do it too.
Right. And her big arguing point is like, just admit that from the beginning you just wanted to get rid of me.
Yeah.
Like,
which is pretty true.
It's completely true. I don't know where she got the idea that Joel cared about her. Like,
well, I mean, like through the gameplay,
Yeah.
it's like they worked very hard to keep each other alive up to this point.
That's true. Ellie says like, everyone I've ever loved has either died or left me. And don't tell me that I'll be safer with Tommy, because if we're going to be honest, like I'll just be more scared without you around. And
Joel thinks it's a bad thing to depend on people in that way.
And also she brings up the fact, she's like, I'm not going to die like your daughter Sarah did. Like, she's like, Maria told me about Sarah, and like, don't worry about me. Like, I'm not her. Like, we're not going to have that. Like, the same thing won't happen to me. You're not going to lose me the way that you lost Sarah. And Joel, with like the most like blood curdling, like tone in his voice, he's like, you're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell am not your dad.
Yeah.
And like, end of scene, where it's just like, ugh.
And now we're back to,
and then Tommy's like, we got
a
more
moment
bad
that
boys.
safety has ended.
Yeah.
And I can't help. It's Joel's conflict is the same. It's the same thing as Shinji and Evangelion.
Oh.
Where like this idea of like meaning in life comes from relationship to other people, but he has experienced loss.
Yes.
In a way that makes him go, oh, the risks of relationship for me outweigh like the safety of just surviving alone, and I'm gonna push them away. And this is his big moment of like, I'm trying to push it away.
Yes. I don't want to accept. I don't
because there's a risk of loss inherent to that again. So I'm gonna pretend and like, man up, like you ain't my daughter, and it's like, well,
by saying that, yes, she is.
If you just accept it, then yeah, you could take this risk of like, but there's this person who needs you in a very similar way that your daughter did, and you feel you failed in spite of the fact that it was just a moment of random violent chaos.
Yes.
That you could like step in here. And then violence breaks out, as we said.
Right. I love these is it like real-time cutscenes where the game engine is still you see sometimes, like I see these videos of like Red Dead Redemption 2 playthroughs where like somebody will like throw a stick of dynamite into a room and then walk into the room and start a cinematic, and the dynamite will have exploded right before the talking starts. And so you're talking to like a smoking corpse.
Yeah.
Obviously not the way it was designed to happen, but like the game just like, you're like, oh, well, this has been pinged and now I need this cinematic with this character. You can do that kind of thing in the ranch here. I saw a great little instructional on how to like really blast through that combat with the hunters that raid the ranch house right after Joel and Ellie's big scene. You can like lay some of those like nail bombs, because like, have we talked about the nail bombs really? Like they're like proximity mines kind of, right? Like you can throw them like a grenade and they'll just blow up when people get near it.
Yeah.
Or you can like lay them strategically at a place where people will walk past it. You can do that on your walk up to the bedroom to talk to Ellie, and Tommy will run into the room at the end of the cinematic the way it always does. He's like, there's someone in the house. And then you just hear like, poof, poof. And then you find their corpses down at the bottom. It's very satisfying.
Yeah. I think that was like, this was the first time I started to use those actually.
Yeah. The nail bombs are great. I would go through, I think the only thing I didn't really use besides like once or twice when it was like projected to be like a necessity is the smoke bombs. Those seem completely useless to me.
I think I use them in like the very final mission or whatever we want to call them. I
sure
did as much stealth as possible
Yeah.
through the end game, and I used one or two for that.
That makes
about
sense.
It.
So what happened? So they kill the bad guys, and then Joel, Tommy, and Ellie, they're getting back on their horses, and Joel's like, Ellie, get off that horse, give it back to Tommy, get on my horse, you ready to go?
Yeah.
And like without saying a word, and he like without being like, actually everything I said back there was
now
malarkey.
We're best friends forever.
Yeah. I mean, and that's very much in line with his character. Is like he doesn't want to say, I guess we should talk about it. Like that's not his way. He's just like, well, let's go. Don't make me repeat I think he even says, don't make me repeat myself. Just like, what a jerk. But Joel and Ellie learn from Tommy that to find the Fireflies, they need to go to the University of Eastern Colorado. Is that a real school?
I do not recall.
But they're going to find like the medical facilities that the Fireflies have been working out of. And they take a horse. Ellie names the horse Callus, which I think is really just what she feels about Joel. Because Joel's like, I hate this horse's name. And Ellie's just like, I think it's perfect.
Is it? I thought it was Cassis.
No, it's Callus.
Oh, that's funny. So yeah, when we enter the university and we're just blazing through on a horse.
Yes.
Again, it raises this question of like, how do you move through this world? How do you know when it's safe to just drive through the highway on your car? How do you know when it's safe to just ram through this campus on your horse, especially when you were told, oh, this is like a civilized outpost. You'll see signs of, there's like a research facility here, and they come and it's abandoned. They're still just like, oh, just gallivant on our horse and make as much noise as we want.
They're just glaring targets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
A little confusing.
But you find a flamethrower.
You sure do.
That's fun. I really enjoy the dormitory section.
I did too. I had that was a fun moment of sort of imagining like, ooh, this is like I don't know, like I think of it in the real world of like kids who were in college during COVID and just told like, don't leave your room.
Jeez,
it's like
sucks.
What it would have been like 20 years ago to be like, I'm living in this dorm, and like there's a fun little detail of, like you find like one of those pre-built like little nail bombs in a dorm desk.
Oh gosh.
Which like I don't think they put a lot of thought into item placement and like where and why, but that was one where I did sort of like build a little narrative of like some kid is just like some weird kid just stuck in his dorm trying to survive. Be like, oh, I don't know, I'm just gonna build this nail bomb to defend myself.
I'll show those jocks.
Yeah.
There's a couple of documents that you can find throughout the dorms too that tell the story of like these people that are just like, I mean, the outbreak is just happening and they have like locked down the campus and there's these survivors in the dorms, and like I mean, we get this in most modern games at this point, but I love all of the optional
world building
narrative that you can get through just like reading
slips
some
of paper everywhere.
Yeah, dude. It's funny because like I don't just leave notes everywhere. That's just like, oh, I ran out of groceries today. We need to go to store before it close. But I also am not a character in a video game, to my knowledge.
This is what I kind of love that like Elden Ring doesn't really do this pretend you've actually found some relic somebody left behind. It just like gives you lore on every item you find, and that builds the world.
That's cool.
It doesn't do this sort of pretending you actually found something somebody left behind.
It's not a found footage.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
It's just like, no, you just kind of know like this was the sword of such and such.
Love
and
that.
And like, and then like just weird freaks put together every detail of every item in those games to understand this like deep like I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? The type of like horror, like
Eldritch?
Lovecraftian eldritch horror
Yeah.
of like this world that was built, and it's all just from item details.
That's cool.
I like that method better than like, and I feel like a lot of RPGs do this too. That like sort of, oh, there's diaries everywhere, and if you really want to know the lives of these people, you'll read this 5-page diary that's left in every home.
It's very dungeon mastery, you know?
Yeah.
Shout out to all the weirdos out there, you know? So in the dorms, I think the section that I enjoyed the most, Joel kind of goes off on his own at one point to leave Ellie with the horse. And he goes into this like lower level of the dorms where there's spores and there's a bloater, and there's a bunch of clickers. So you know that this is like the first area that like got hit that's been like sealed off. And so there's just like, you know, an untouched area for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
And the way that up on the screen right now, I did not see these, Josh. 3 playthroughs. I did not see this. What the fuck is wrong with me? Maybe you're playing the remake, right?
Yeah, they might not have been in yours.
Yeah. I don't think I'm that blind.
Because this, for me, was like the obvious path. It was like, this goes around that bloater that's trolling the hallway.
Yeah. No, that's so embarrassing, dude. That looks really dumb.
And then you can like go through this door where it just chases you, and you just have to quick time event to get away from it.
The way I play it, because I really love the way that this game can prioritize stealth, because you're just it's just clickers and bloaters. I think bloaters are also blind too, because they're just clickers that have developed even farther.
They just like run at you when you make noise.
So what it's incentivizing is for you to stealth kill all of these clickers, because if one of them notices you around, they'll make noise, and then they'll all swarm you, and then you're getting swarmed by clickers and a bloater, which is just like a death sentence.
Yeah.
And the flamethrower is the most effective weapon against
I don't know if I
bloaters.
ever used it.
I mean, in general, fire seems to be like the equalizer for the bigger enemies in the games, and even in the sequels too. Like the flamethrower, the way that it can like really like upgrade is really just to increase its range, which is because you got to get pretty close to the bloaters to hit them with the flamethrower,
which is like a one touch and you're dead enemy.
Yes, I love the insta kill of the majority of the enemies are insta kills.
Yeah,
I never did the Shiv Master trait that you can get with the supplements that gives you the option to like to use a shiv like you would use the defensive knives in the Resident Evil remakes.
You mean like you don't immediately lose it or something?
Exactly, because like you could get grabbed by a clicker, and if you have that perk,
right,
you can then defend instantly with a shiv.
Yeah, on easy mode, I just always had 3 shivs. I was very rare.
Oh, for sure. Again, like in hard mode, like you don't have more than 1 shiv at a time. It's kind of fun, honest. I do like the scarcity in that sense, because it does make it puts me back in those old days where I actually took this stuff seriously.
Yeah.
Like making critical choices.
I just happened to stop my footage on this piece of world building that I liked, of the scraps you find all over here. This is a lot of really just quick exposition in a single like news piece that happened to survive for 20 years, waiting for Joel to find it in a desk, about like the people on this. I think this is the one where it's like the people on the campus are finding out from a news story like the military's giving up.
Yes, they have failed.
And it's funny that it talks about the WHO, World Health Organization, reports, which in the real world we withdrew from a week and a half ago. So that's not going to be a thing much longer. They say that 60% of the world's population is dead or infected at this point. While this news outlet is still operational, like it's just fun to play with, like what's still surviving, what's the state of things at that moment.
So you mean to tell me that with 60% of the world's population dead, there are still people that are worrying about deadlines and printing presses
so that they can get their paycheck?
The
news never sleeps. I'm a real newsman, and I do it for the love of the game.
As a recovered newsman, not happening. I quit.
Yeah. I feel that.
Okay, so
Oh, and it talks about
the fact that the
They've-
college kids are realizing that no help is coming.
yeah, like they're on their own.
Yes.
That's what I got from this is like a kid read this and goes, "Oh my God, we're on our own."
You mean we're in charge?
Yeah, kids rule the school. Skateboarding down the hallway,
Oh my
baby.
Rock and roll high school.
Partying with zombies.
Oh man, that would be fun. No, those kids all died. They all died. I do like it because you find a couple survivors notes where it's just like, oh, I caught Becky and she was smoking weed, so I threw all of her weed away, and she's super mad at me, but she doesn't realize that like we need to like be chill, but like not that chill right now.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot the detail on this. At the end, the kid has scribbled on it. Found this in town. WTF? No one's coming. And like you can imagine that kid starts spreading this around, and they're like, "Oh my God!" Yeah. Which is Again, it's a more fun space to play in before COVID.
But you know what? The silver lining? No more student debts.
Yeah, student debt is over. If you want it.
So the Joel and Ellie they get to the medical building after getting through the campus, and long story short, the Fireflies were there, but they left their post.
I didn't I don't remember ever finding out a why. So because you're going through where you seem clear this is where the Fireflies were set up, that they were supposed to do whatever it is they were going to do to figure out how to make a vaccine from Ellie's resistance.
Yeah.
Like you find out, like they're like, yeah, it seems like they were here. This is where we would have done this, but they're gone and they left in a hurry.
Yes, I think they were,
And I didn't get a clear reason why.
I think the
I may have missed
concentration of hunters was just becoming too much for them to deal with. And also, I think they needed to move to a facility, a little bit better equipped facility for what they needed to do. We do find that like
once again, we've reached the top of the mountain and go, dang it.
yeah, I mean, that's just an adventure, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Where you're like, what happens next? I don't know. Let's find out. Let's go. I think
like I'm thinking about this in comparison to you know me. I love my big cozy Japanese role playing games.
Sure do.
And in those, it's like
you're like the coziest Japanese guy I know.
I'm a cozy gamer. I don't care. Call me a baby boy, but like, or you know, Zelda, Nintendo, baby toys. You finish saving the Zoras, and you go, okay, I'm one step closer to the goal that I've known. Whereas in this, it's like the goalpost just keeps moving after you've gone through so many horrible things to get there.
This is not the feel-good hit of the year.
No.
Man.
I also want to talk about like I think it's in here when they run into the monkeys.
The monkeys.
This is just like a critique
monkeys.
of like there's just something about the writing and the acting that was irking me where like when they first see these like there's monkeys running around the campus, they're just like, what were those monkeys? Oh, cool. That's awesome. And like they just have this really mild reaction to it, but their words are saying, that's awesome. That's the craziest thing I've ever seen. And it's just like, I would be, again, it's like, what is the world like? Has Ellie even seen a video of like a monkey? You know,
in the
like,
game, she's like, I've never seen a monkey before.
Like, I feel like her reaction would be losing her mind. Instead, she's just like, oh, cool. That was a monkey. That's amazing.
Josh, I follow you on Instagram. I know how you feel about primates. I think you're just really excited to see monkeys and we're not matching your freak.
I'm just trying to imagine like a kid living in a world where you can't even see video of like wild animals and stuff. Like she's probably like in day to day, you're only gonna see squirrels and birds or whatever. Like I feel like I'd be losing my mind.
I would too.
Yeah.
Honestly. But so these monkeys, right? They're test monkeys. The Fireflies were doing like preliminary tests on finding a vaccine on these monkeys. And if you do if I'm remembering this correctly, the chief researcher at this facility was bit by a monkey that had been infected with the cordyceps. Now, we don't see any infected monkeys in the way that you would be like, oh, that's an infected human, right?
Yeah.
So I think we're supposed to believe that like they sort of found a resistant species in the monkeys in the sense that they can be infected without losing their faculties, which might be an important evolutionary link in understanding the long-term survival strategy of humans in this fungal zombie apocalypse. All we know right now is that Ellie is resistant to the fungus. I don't think that is a clean cut good thing for this world. We'll get more to it.
That
I think the
is
fact.
resistant?
So what I had kind of a goose chill run up my back when I was thinking about this. I as I'm known to do, I stare off into the fire. I tent my fingers
and assume the worst.
and I just think critically about video games and video game adaptations. And I'm thinking about like, okay, the idea of a Trojan horse, basically, where like the game does not give you any reason to believe this, but I like thinking about it because I want to believe that the writers might have considered it. Is that what if Ellie being resistant to the cordyceps is actually like a Trojan horse for the cordyceps to like find
like it's an evolution of the virus
in a way to like coexist with humanity and to not burn through their main like vehicle for transmission. Like if they found like, okay, if we call Ellie patient 0 in the cure for this, and if the fireflies were able to synthesize a vaccine, what if like that just in some way is like, oh, and now everybody has a little bit of the cordyceps in them. And that's like, man, I can't wait for you to understand what the world looks like outside of the first game.
Again, it's just like, it makes me think about COVID, and it's like everybody got COVID, and now like, oh, well, Sean points out, Sean did not get COVID.
I have stayed out of that sick ward. I'm a very reclusive person.
Yeah.
I don't have friends.
Honestly, your biggest risk of getting COVID is hanging out with me each week.
I know.
Now that I think about it, but like,
I know. Look how far away we are. Right
yeah.
now. This is about as close as we get.
And like a lot of weird health complications have come from COVID. That it doesn't relate to the game as much, but like the medical system has sort of decided we're just going to kind of like turn a blind eye to the fact that like a lot of new weird things are happening to people who got COVID that are related to the things COVID attacks, like the lungs and the vascular system. And we're not going to tie them together because no one's going to pay us to research that.
Nope.
But like, that thing you're describing is almost like a similar thing, like just these lingering ways for a virus to like kick around and do damage. I survive.
We see that like the cordyceps spores and like they have breeding grounds that are starting to like take over their environments, right? You'll like see like fungus just like growing on the walls, and like, the bloaters are just like you see like that used to be a normal sized human being, and the fungus just keeps growing and growing and growing around it. And like it, like I think this is completely like junior camp counselor Sean headcanon right now, but like I think there's an intelligent design to the cordyceps in The Last of Us that like doesn't just stop with a vaccine. I think like in The Walking Dead, for example, when they go to the CDC, if you kept up with that series past the first episode, like they go to the CDC headquarters in Atlanta, and then they find out that like everybody alive has this zombie virus inherent in them. Like the whole line is like, we are the Walking Dead. No matter what, if we die, we're going to turn into zombies. Like that's what the Walking Dead introduces. And I can't help but think that perhaps there is something along those same lines in The Last of Us. And part 2 doesn't explore this at all. It's not a part of the story. And honestly, the cordyceps is like the least important part of the story of the sequel. That's all I'll say about that. But like, I don't know.
There's a reason we have to get boosters for the flu and COVID every year.
Yeah, very good point.
Because viruses are tenacious and are going to keep mutating and try to fight back. So yeah, absolutely what you're saying.
So it turns out one of the researchers who's working with these test monkeys, he gets bit by the monkey, and then he leaves a voice recorder, which Joel and Ellie find, of him just basically like being like, if you're going to find any fireflies, you got to go to St. Mary's Hospital in I forget what city that's in.
Salt Lake City.
Salt Lake City. Thank you. And like that's where the fireflies are going next. And then the guy, shoots himself in the head before he turns. And as soon as they find out, it's literally as soon as they find out their next objective, they get attacked by more bad guys, and we've got another shootout in the hospital.
Yeah,
and
I feel like we should talk through this and then like the beginning of the next thing, and then save the rest for another
we're gonna
episode.
wrap soon.
Yeah, because well, so most of this is like just endless stream of guys as you're trying to fight your way out.
One of the clues, if you're going through a part of The Last of Us and you're not sure if this is going to be a combat segment, if you find random bricks and bottles lying around, just know there's probably going to be some enemies at some point in this fight. Like you're going to have to fight with them at some point. But if you don't find any bricks or bottles, probably just blast through that area.
Yeah. But like it does seem like just endless stream of guys as you're trying to escape this campus building until it feels quite sudden, right?
You're going through, you're having a firefight, and you get to this like.
One more note before you finish describing that is like, and you find these guys have left like flares that are like guiding you out. I found was very interesting that like suggested like this is a different level of coordination
that the Raiders have.
Yeah, that like we haven't seen from any other group of like people that have been hunting us down yet. But eventually, it like pretty much out of the blue, I don't know how, but Joel falls.
Right. Well, we're about to see is this up on the screen right now?
Okay. Yeah. It's literally you open a door and
a hunter jumps out, starts strangling him over a banister. They're on like the second floor.
Yeah.
And like an open like banister area. And they both fall down. A piece of rebar, sticking up from the ground, a piece of is that what it's called? Is that rebar?
I'd call that rebar.
A piece of rebar impales Joel through his abdomen. It seems to like just miss all of his vital organs and his spine, like and his stomach. He like I don't know how. Whatever.
So this is the moment like. In the game, it's very uncomfortable and visceral for me to watch, but this is like the moment that I was finally like, the prestige. The trick has worked on me. I am emotionally invested, and because again, it's like this all I know is the spoiler from part 2 is Ellie's the only one on the cover, and it's a few years later that I was like, oh my God, is this the end of the game?
Please do it.
I was like, I want this to be how this ends.
I would like games
abruptly.
to be shorter in general.
Yeah, I was like, 1, I like the length. 2, I like the abruptness of it. And like the like complete lack of any sort of foreshadowing or like typical storytelling pacing. And then again, like this 2013 environmental storytelling trick of like, I'm still controlling Joel,
a dying character,
a dying man, as this girl who has become completely dependent on him is defending to keep him alive, and she's surviving. I'm seeing she's gotten the tools to survive.
Yes.
I was like, actually it's after the next part is like where I'm like, if it cut right here and said end of part 1, I would have thrown my hands up, Martin Scorsese style, absolute cinema, perfect. But no, it goes on.
It goes on. Not to decry the ending of this game, which I think is one of the strongest moments.
The other thing I want to add is like I still like the unceremoniously way of taking Joel out right now would have also been. I'd be like, it's fine. I never liked him.
Yeah.
I'm in this for her. You know,
so much of the discussion and like the discourse around The Last of Us is people trying to like defend or like make sense of Joel's decisions, and like
nope.
the thing about Joel as a character is that like he doesn't have to be a good person. He's not Captain America. Like there's no like bastion of good that he's like upholding or anything along those lines that like would like his redemption is purely selfish.
Yeah. And he's peak of that era of this guy,
yes, of
too.
The stoic do it all
From Tony Soprano to Walter White era, you know, anti-hero.
Yeah. And Rick Grimes from The Walking Dead.
And that's an even better analog. Yeah. But did you have more to add there before he passes out here?
So, okay. This is my, like, because this is a part of the game where I do think about Neil Druckmann.
Mm-hmm.
Because this is just okay. So the last time Joel and Ellie had like a big argument before the horse runoff thing was when Ellie killed the hunter that was drowning him.
Mm-hmm.
In much the same way, Joel opens a door. A hunter rushes him, knocks him off of a ladder. He falls down into the puddle, and Joel shoots this guy in the head after the guy's trying to drown Joel.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, Joel doesn't have a puddle to fall onto. Instead, he has a rebar that, impales him. It's this mirroring of stories where Joel has to do the same thing over and over again, except now Ellie is saving him more literally. Like the last time she did it, like she already proved herself as like, look, I saved you, Joel, but now I'm saving you from like not only from the people trying to kill you, but like I'm going to save you despite your body giving out. And I'm going to save you. I'm going to save your life. I'm going to give you life the way a parent gives life in some ways.
Yeah. And the other thing I would have loved about this being Joel's true death is the fact that like it's so stupid.
Yeah.
Like he spent so much time being so afraid of other people, and then it's just this dumb, clumsy accident of just like an environmental thing impaling him being what kills him. Would have been like perfect. It's exactly how this jerk should die.
But Ellie gets him to the horse. I mean, I love the gameplay aspect, controlling a Joel losing consciousness. Like the screen's going in and out. You've got barely any control over the aiming reticle, and like the pressure's on. Like you still need to shoot guys. Like you can't just let Ellie do it all. You have to still.
She can't do it all on her own. Still.
And Joel gets on the horse. Ellie is keeping him on the horse, and then like. They finally get to a point where it's just like, okay, I think we're safe. Joel falls off the horse, fade to black.
Yeah.
Winter. That's what we'll leave it for there.
Well, I do want to talk about like just the first part of winter, where it's just Ellie hunting and you don't see Joel.
Yeah. And we don't know.
Yeah. You are left thinking she might be on her own.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden you are playing as her. And you have to hunt a deer. That's the moment where I'm like, if the end of this game was this, so it's cutscene, she hunts a rabbit. Now she finds a deer. You run around, you have to hunt the deer. If it was like, shoot the deer, she runs up and starts like dressing the deer, drone shot out, end of part 1, that would have been perfect.
That'd be great.
I would have loved that.
So many people would hate that.
And the funny thing is, from here on, I kind of hate this game.
Yeah. For what it puts Ellie through. Ellie suffers in this game.
Yes. Because I'll talk about it. We'll have a final episode to talk about it, but like I've watched a lot of making of, and from the 2013 when this was made, there's no Last of Us 2 yet. They are so proud of their strong female protagonist, and it is the complete opposite. Like, this girl is just not empowered in any way by the end of the game.
I'm excited to disagree with you next week because there's a lot to talk about, like the way Ellie composes herself and where you find the power, I think is the discussion we'll have. Because Ellie does come through a fully empowered woman in my take. I've played through this 3 times. That doesn't mean I understand it better. It just means I've exposed myself to this so many times. That sounds wrong.
No, they just got to come back next week to see whose argument about Ellie's position on the grid of power at the end of this game is stronger.
Okay, campers, that was a good one, right? We did it.
That was fun.
Join us next time. We're going to wrap up our discussion on The Last of Us from 2013 or 2018 or 2020. They keep
Depending on which
releasing
version you play.
Be sure to, you know what? Tell a family member about Camp Video Games and show them how to subscribe. Show grandma how to subscribe on YouTube. We need those numbers.
Your grandma does need to check us out on YouTube.
I heard some bad words on that podcast and some leftist Marxist ideas.
They were very disrespectful to the president.
That's all, campers. Thank you.
All right. Stay safe out there.
We don't need any more zombies.
If you'd like to write to us, send a message to campvideogames@gmail.com and follow us on Instagram @campvideogames. If you want to become a real happy camper, you can support Camp Video Games on Patreon. For $5 a month, you'll be granted access to even more discussions about movie-based video games, game-based movies, full-length commentaries, playthroughs, and more. Whether you sign up or not, we're glad to have you here at Camp Video Games.